Hello everyone, my name is Matt Reid, and welcome back to another episode of Double Take, where I take a second look at games and movies to see if they're as good or as bad as everyone says they are. To start, I want to take you back to me as a wee lad of age 12, excited buying my first T-rated game with my parents to play on my new Xbox 360, Gears of War. I was excited from the moment I saw the first trailer, an emotional roller coaster within itself, and now finally I was able to secure the game for myself. Little did I know that I would be vested in a franchise that traveled into the next decade. The single-player playthroughs were some of my favorite, and it has one of the best co-op campaigns in history for me. I played all the games multiple times, even the poorly reviewed spin-off and all the DLC. So when I heard that another studio was making a fourth installment to the franchise, I was elated. And when I finally got a hold of Gears of War 4, I was honestly surprised with how bad it was. I have 1.5 million complaints with this game, but I think I'll just stick to the big ones for time's sake. I also want to apologize ahead of time, as I'll be making a lot of comparisons to the older games, so there might be a large amount of spoiling ahead. Now it's time to let me chainsaw this game right in half. Anyone? No? Okay. The game opens with a speech about remembering the past war that reshaped the world. The game takes place 20 or so years after the previous games. In the middle of this speech, there are cuts to flashbacks, the first starting with characters we recognize, but don't get to play as. All of their cool stuff is done off-screen, and I'm forced into playing a no-name, faceless gear that inevitably dies at the end of each scene, leaving me with not a care in the world of what happens to them. It was annoying to say the least. Next, we can get into the characters. In Gears of War 1, we are slowly introduced to the main characters throughout the first few missions of the game. It starts out with Marcus Phoenix and his best bud Dom, two friends who have been torn and scarred by war. It's immediate that these guys are not to be messed with, and you feel awesome playing as them. You follow the story, get introduced to Baird and Coltrane, a sarcastic yet technical genius, and an energetic gung-ho soldier that doesn't let a few hundred enemies stop him. You feel invested in these characters, and there's something for almost everyone in the squad. In Gears of War 4, we have Why Are You Even Here?, Store Brand Soldier, Nancy No Name, and the Golden Goose. I don't even know all their names. 9 hours of gameplay, and I don't know all their names. I know JD, but that's mostly because he was in the trailer. And of course, I know Marcus. I feel none of the same emotions towards these new characters. These guys show up a little later, which is also a nice surprise. I think I don't know the new characters because I stopped paying attention halfway through the prologue. These characters are all introduced at once, and they have no memorable interactions. They're in a cutscene, they're stealing some stuff, there's a butterfly scene that takes way too long, that no one cares about. It just leaves a bad taste in my mouth overall. The sad part about this start is that the most memorable character is a comic relief drunk uncle, who's only in the game for around 20 minutes. That's just sad. All I cared about was getting back to an older Marcus, which is admittedly the best part of the game. He carries the cutscenes, which I don't really understand how one character can be so much better written than the rest of the entire game. Some of his cutscenes are still funny to poke fun at.
You thought you could trick me with that fake emblem, didn't you?
The next part I can mention is the plot. Wait, what plot? I mean it when I say that I have no idea what's going on in this game. The plot is basically a ripoff of a generic concept. The enemies from last game are now mutated and they're kidnapping people and they're a hive and blah blah blah. They'll probably explain it in the next game, which is silly in its own right, to have a game that is so little for plot that we have to rely on a sequel for anything in the previous game to make sense. And that's assuming they try to tell a real story in the next game. I probably won't play it though. No Name is the main character. I'd play it for uncle or mother were the main characters though. At least they're somewhat interesting. Last but not least, I'll get into the gameplay itself. Gears 4 takes on the same old combat system from Gears 1 through 3, and that's not a negative. They did mess up how the enemies interact with you in a big way though. There isn't a person who knows Gears of War and doesn't think of the famous chainsaw gun. You know how many enemies I cut down like this in the game? 3. Just 3. When you pull out the saw, everything staggers you now. Too much wind? Put it away. Shot one time? Put it away. Someone farts? Put it away. You hinder yourself too much not to just use a shotgun and tear through enemies left and right with this overpowered weapon. I purposely dropped the shotgun in almost every level, and within 10 minutes, I had one again. They're just too good and too prevalent. The other thing that annoyed the grub out of me was the level design. Too often was I sprinting through a level and would get caught on a ledge, or have too aggressive enemy AI with my back to a wall, or even zero cover whilst hiding from a turret. Some of the choices made no sense whatsoever. I will mention that the most fun I had in this entire playthrough is the chain level. The cover was constantly moving, forcing you through the level and ending you if you messed up a roll or a sprint. It was interesting, and if they incorporated it into the gameplay more, it might have been this game's savior. You could say that this level was off the chain. Anyone? No? Still? Still nothing? Okay. Overall, I cannot recommend that you play this heaping pile of garbage. I'll be honest, I think I'm only 90% through this game, but I have absolutely no motivation to play through the rest. And I know what you're thinking, Matt Reid, if you've never finished the game, how can you review it? Well, I've seen the ending, and trust me, it does not help the game's case. If you have any thoughts, questions, or concerns on how to properly operate lumberjack guns, agree with me or disagree, make sure to tweet me at ZTV Goofing Off using the hashtag DoubleTake. My name is Matt Reid, and this has been Double Take.